talk about Godzilla versus Kong. Just watched it too, so it's fresh in my mind, but I can't promise that my mind is on point right now. I was trying to record this at 9, so I'm still kind of awake and focused. A lot of shit kind of it didn't happen. Um, right off the bat, a couple things, okay? It's easy to forget that, first of all, they did this movie once. The original King Kong versus Godzilla was a thing. So just a fun fact for you, they did that way back. Um, One of those old movies. Back then they were making everybody fight each other, team up with each other. I mean, from all the monster movies, and this was technically a monster movie, both of them. Just in a different. It was the big monster movie was kind of a little bit of it's a separate thing from the actual monster movies like Wolfman and Mummy and all that. Um, but they always still did that, you know. And I mean, the monster movies were Universal. This is Warner Brothers, so I don't know if that was they were always owned by Warner Brothers, or they at one point maybe they were Universal at one point. But I think it's very interesting to point that out and to point out the fact that we are actually in a little franchise here that we forget about. This is the fourth film in this series. It's not like it's the sequel to Kong or something, you know, because Kong Skull Island is very fresh in people's minds because the second Godzilla was not as good as people wanted it to be. Now, these films are actually pretty decent. We got four so far, and I think three out of the four are pretty fucking decent. That Godzilla 2 was a little bit rough, but at the same time, what can you expect? It's hit or miss when it's the same kind of concept of monsters fighting each other, big monsters destroying cities, CGI slugfest. You're gonna get a hit and miss kind of situation. But the fact that we're four films into this is interesting because you can kind of forget that. The first Godzilla was first, and that was back in 2014, so it was a while ago, and it was pretty good too. It was until this one, probably the best. I think this one is the best now. But we had Kong Skull Island and then Godzilla 2, Godzilla King of the Monsters. And that's the thing. I didn't see that one. I saw Godzilla. I saw Kong Skull Island. I will see the other one, just to kind of round out some story, story elements that slip my mind a little bit. Because the sequel does come into it a little bit, and you have to try to remember. Okay, I don't recall some of these characters. I don't recall the history of some of these characters and the history of the Titans now as they're called. I don't remember if they were called Titans in this or if they were. Was Kong a Titan, considered a Titan in Kong? Just things that you're just not really. But it doesn't matter because this movie breaks it down for people who are just watching this movie, and they do it effectively. And if you're just watching this movie and haven't seen any of the other ones, it works even better almost because it's a great concept. I think that's really good. Critics, they keep saying that this movie kind of does away with story and plot and character development for the big CGI spectacle, action, brawl, all of it. But I actually think there's a pretty good story. There's a pretty decent little story here underneath it all. There's a nice little mysterious element to it. There's a cool background, cool new little elements that they give to Kong and Godzilla. I swear I'm like an old man. I'm 25 years. I'm like an old man with noises. I can't stand loud noises. This morning I was woken up by a freaking jackhammer that was so fucking loud out here. Oh my god. It's weird though, because if I were behind that car that's driving by, I wouldn't even care. Definitely would not care. Whatever. Yeah, I think there's actually a pretty good story here. Though obviously we're building to the main event, right? We want that. But I think there's actually a pretty good story. And it's true that seeing the monsters quickly kind of is like this idea of it loses its touch of this mysterious element. It's what's so nice about the first Godzilla and Kong is you want to see the monster kind of at the last possible second that you can show them before spending a good amount of time. It's just it helps the story overall. But because this movie is not about believing if they're real and then finally seeing them, and it's not that movie. This is about building to a brawl between two monsters that we already know exist and have seen. So that's what this is, and that's why it works. And why it really works? They don't. It's not like they just fight each other once. Nah, they go a full 3 fucking rounds, man. And the third round is pretty cool because it's what you would expect to happen, right? But they do things in unexpected ways that actually surprise me. Yeah, so sequel problems a little bit. If you haven't seen Godzilla 2, you might not know little things. But the story and the stakes and the plan for all of the characters is laid out pretty relatively straightforward. The idea that Skull Island and Hollow Earth, again, see, was Hollow Earth revealed to us in Godzilla 2? I don't know, didn't see it, doesn't matter. But Hollow Earth and Skull Island are these habitable places for Titans. Now, Titans, again, don't know if this was the first time or not, but I really loved this idea about Godzilla and Kong are what we call Titans. They come from a place called Hollow Earth, underneath, deep underneath regular Earth. And they kind of need to get Kong there because he can no longer live on Skull Island. It's not habitable to him anymore. So they want to bring him to Hollow Earth so he can have a home. And the fact that Godzilla is not acting like himself, immediately there's questions. Why is Godzilla attacking people? He never does that. He's as they put it, an alpha titan. And that's the thing. Godzilla and Kong are alpha titans. So that I suppose that means top of the top tier titans. And apparently there can't be two protecting Earth at the same time. And it's why they brawl each other in the first place. There's a history to their species. There's an ancient feud between these two and their kind. Wars that they fought against each other in ancient times. And that's crazy. That's a cool way to bring the two characters that are usually in separate worlds together and fighting each other. Don't know if they really... I'm curious if they pulled anything from the original, like the original Godzilla and Kong, or if they just went completely original here. But either way, I like that. I really thought that was a cool way to bring things together. And the fact that we get to visit Hollow Earth, that was super cool. Just the concept in general really was cool. And basically make them the same species. If being a Titan is a species, you made these two powerhouse monsters and classic heroes, because they are both heroes in their own stories. You make them the same species and you have them fighting each other. You got to make that work effectively in a way that makes sense, and I think they did that here. But also just Kong needing a home, and this idea of home as a theme was really actually a really effective element. Kong signing for the first time and actually communicating with people, that is new. That is new and really a great, almost character development for Kong, dude. They gave Kong character development. How can you complain about that? Kong's people, right? And Godzilla's people we get here. We get people who support Kong, who know him. We get people like Madison, played by Millie Bobby Brown, who know Godzilla. And both sides that obviously have known them to be people who protect people. People who have known them to be heroes. They're not people. Heroes that protect people. And so having them fight each other is strange for any of our people characters who know the characters, right? And in this film, they pose Godzilla as the bad guy at first in a weird and interesting new way, and Kong is the good guy who's got to protect people from Godzilla. So, right off the bat, we are posed with a question that is, why is Godzilla attacking? And right off, and that's what we want to know. And as we learn more and more, it actually unfolds in a really impactful way, because it's like, oh yeah, people do stupid shit in every one of these fucking movies. And we have our actual bad guys doing things they should not be doing. We have our bad guys at apex trying to make a weapon to defeat Titans so that they are once again able to protect themselves from Titans and be the apex predator. And what do? They create a classic monster from the Godzilla franchise. They create the Mecha Godzilla. And of course, that ends up being the main villain. But when they did this whole main villain thing, it wasn't what I expected. I just expected the people to be controlling it. But actually, it naturally gets a mind of its own and starts going on a rampage. And then what happens in round 3 of this battle? Kong and Godzilla have to team up to defeat it. But before that happens, they fight each other 2 other times. And I think that it was important that there was an actual winner of that fight. It doesn't end in a draw. Godzilla wins. Godzilla beats Kong. Almost kills him. Pretty much does kill him, if not for the people that are around supporting Kong, looking after him, that bring him basically back to life. But I think it was important that there's a winner. I just think in general that had to happen. But I think also the human characters we spend time with really left for a cool multi storyline thing that comes together and slowly reveals the actual bigger mystery. I think when we get to Hollow Earth and actually seeing Hollow Earth, we see that it is the home of Titans, and we see some interesting new creatures on Hollow Earth. We also see the history of both Kong and Godzilla's species and their long feud. This idea of Hollow Earth having 2 surfaces, and one side belonging to Kong's people and the other side belonging to Godzilla's, that was cool. Literally this moment of Kong jumping from one surface onto the other, onto his ancestor's side. It just visually confirms the war between their 2. I thought that was really cool. But also, I think it just the history of Titans, history of Hollow Earth. I like how trying to replace Godzilla is like trying to replace Titans in general. Apex with this whole Mega Godzilla thing, but I think the point here is that Godzilla and Kong are actually the alphas that are supposed to protect Earth, and not just Hollow Earth, but regular Earth. It just added more depth even to our monsters in this. I was still a little confused about why exactly Godzilla cared so much about going after Kong. I understand why he was going after Apex, 100%. It was a threat to him. Also, him just like drilling into Earth with his laser fires, shit, like just all the way down to Hollow Earth from fucking Hong Kong was just crazy. And by the way, how did the humans who went to Hollow Earth plan on getting back to regular Earth if Godzilla didn't do what he did and blew a friggin' hole into the fucking Earth and give them a quick way back? Just a question I had. Yeah. Most importantly, though, the story actually worked because I think every character, from the little girl to Madison's friend to the villains, they all had a purpose. Everybody had a purpose that made sense in this movie. So that was important. That's really why this worked. Yeah, the villains weren't even one dimensional. I understand why people would want to make weapons to fight Titans. Like to protect humanity themselves instead of just. But having faith in Godzilla and Kong actually ended up making more sense because in the end, them working together is what defeats the actual bigger threat that the humans created. Yeah, I wasn't sure if they were going to do it either. I was not sure if they were going to do the obvious thing and team them up, but they ended up doing it. And because I let my guard down and thought they're not going to do that, it surprised me a little more when they actually did do it. Yeah. Of all these movies, this was the most fun to watch. The battling and even the story. I understand it becomes a CGI fest, but that is the point. It's a big spectacle film. You're either going to want to see something like that or you're not. And if you're not, you shouldn't watch it and don't call it. It's not. That doesn't make it a bad movie. But it's not like some amazing fucking movie either. Millie Bobby Brown is really fun to watch, but I'm a big fan of Alexander Skarsgård. So seeing him in this movie and in a role I don't normally see him in like this was fun, and he actually made me laugh sometimes. Yeah, definitely go check it out. I planned on seeing it in a theater, but you can watch it right now on HBO Max. When Mortal Kombat comes out, you bet your ass I'm gonna watch it in a theater. My overall rating is an 8.1 out of 10. Good movie. Just good. Just a good movie. Fun movie. I'll watch it again. I'd like to do like a binge-a-thon, like a marathon. It's funny though. We call it binge-a-thon for TV, marathon for movies. That's what it is now, right? Yeah. I'll do a marathon next time I watch it. I'll do a marathon of all four. I wonder if they're gonna do anything after this now too. What else do they have in mind for this little story, this little series, which is not little at all. I keep saying little like it's little. It's not. It's as big as it gets. Big blockbuster as it gets.